So starting this week, we can't talk about anything else than the Wagner mutiny in Russia. Yevgeny Prigozhin, who's the head of Wagner, led a mutiny on Friday and Saturday. He said the group's actions were aimed at the Russian military leadership, which he accused of corruption and incompetence. But I think more importantly, Prigozhin also questioned Russia's justifications for invading Ukraine in the first place, essentially saying that Ukraine hadn't been targeting Donbass in eastern Ukraine for years and that NATO wasn't planning on invading Russia. So all those things that Russia had used to justify its original invasion. And although Prigozhin said that the mutiny was to change military leadership, exact reasons and timing for the incident are somewhat unclear. There's been several months of kind of infighting between Wagner and the Russian military. Prigozhin has been critical of Russian military leadership, and Russia was trying to bring Wagner under its military command. Then Prigozhin accused Russia of bombing and killing a number of its fighters, which Russia obviously denies, but that seems to be kind of the final trigger for the action. It began with Wagner seizing control of the city of Rostov-on-Don. That's actually Russia's 9th largest city. It's a strategic location in southern Russia that is used quite significantly in the war in Ukraine. And from there, they advanced towards Moscow. Depending on what reports you read, the kind of numbers of forces that Wagner had varies, but it seems to have been about 4,000 personnel with tanks, armored fighting vehicles, maybe some artillery and anti-air equipment, and some reports saying that during the advance, Wagner shot down several Russian military aircraft. But when the Wagner forces reached about 200 kilometers or about 125 miles from Moscow, Prigozhin decided to halt the advance, initially saying that was to avoid any bloodshed. But the decision was also influenced by a negotiated deal, which was brokered by Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko. That's basically allowing Prigozhin to go into exile in Belarus and ensuring the safety of Wagner fighters. There's some suggestions actually that one of the influences on Prigozhin kind of stopping the advance was that he expected regular Russian units to join the column as they moved forward. But that actually didn't happen. And that was really part of the reason he turned back, essentially thinking that he wouldn't have actually had the support once he reached Moscow in terms of kind of actual military firepower. The full details on the negotiated agreement are not known, though. And Prigozhin, interestingly, hasn't been seen in public since Saturday. But as part of the agreement, Prigozhin and Wagner personnel involved in the mutiny will not face any kind of prosecution. The future of Wagner is also unclear. Its units were seen returning to their field camps, and it's unlikely that Russia will want to sort of disband it completely, given its deployments in Africa and other locations, also actually its effectiveness as a fighting force in Ukraine. But its command and control structure is now particularly unclear. See some reporting saying that its fighters will be offered regular military contracts, but that's really uncertain exactly what's going to happen at the moment. It's also interesting that the deal was agreed not long after President Putin had made a televised statement describing the Wagner advance as an internal betrayal of the Russian people, stating that the rebellion threatened the very existence of Russia, and then vowing to punish those who participated. So for Putin to roll back on that is certainly an interesting development. During the incident, Prigozhin did appear careful not to actually mention Putin specifically in any of the statements he made, but you can still see this incident as an overall direct challenge to Putin's authority, and it's certainly embarrassing for Putin. I mean, there's going to be lots of questions about how Wagner was able to advance so rapidly, and just for the fact that it happened weakens Putin somewhat. And then the negotiated end also weakens Putin's authority. Authoritarian leaders typically do rely on like a show of force to end these kind of incidents. And so that not happening kind of challenges Putin somewhat, although, he remains in power now, but his sort of hold on the divided loyalties that make up Russia, it does look like it's creaking a little bit. Nevertheless, he's had pretty incredible staying power over the years. The impact on Ukraine is also uncertain, almost certainly going to distract and sort of divide Russia's army fighting there. I mean, there were already divisions between Russia's military and Wagner, so that there might be wider divisions now. We're unsure at the moment, but it's definitely a potential opportunity for kind of Ukraine to exploit it in the longer term. And then we don't know if we're going to see things like a change in Russia's military leadership as a result at the moment. So we're still, waiting to see what the full outcomes of this incident are. And now I'll hand you over to Roman Fisher.
Thank you, Ross. From e-commerce algorithms to smart car technology, AI tech has existed longer than some of us may realize. AI tools are expected to continue to increase efficiency, process large amounts of data, and automate decision-making. However, as the tech enhances the efficiency of various legitimate endeavors, it will also increase the efficiency of criminal activity. It would allow criminals to target more people with potentially less effort. A recent Homeland Security Newswire article examines 4 ways in which criminals may use AI. The author of the article suggests that how criminals have employed technological advances in the past may foreshadow how they might use AI in the future. Criminals will likely use AI to improve phishing scams, automate interactions, create deep fakes, and brute forcing attacks. As AI tools like Chat GPT can create highly believable text, it will undoubtedly improve the believability of phishing attempts and aid criminals with successfully tricking more victims into handing over exploitable information. Like many organizations that have used automated interactions to optimize business efficiency, criminals can use the same tools to interact with larger numbers of potential victims. They can use the AI tech to impersonate legitimate services, which might allow them to steal money or more easily elicit sensitive information. Deepfakes are AI-generated videos and audio meant to look and sound like another person. Although this technology is currently beyond most individual criminals, time will likely make the tech cheaper and easier to acquire and use. AI will likely aid criminals in creating better brute forcing tools to reveal and exploit weak passwords. Everyone will increasingly need to use strong passwords that are unique and non-specific to the user. Finally, the best protection advice continues to be a healthy amount of skepticism. As criminals become more technologically savvy, we should all become more vigilant and authenticate interactions before providing sensitive information. And that's what we have for you this time. We do appreciate you spending a little time with us. We hope you found the information useful, and we look forward to seeing you again.